be in English. And we very much welcome your participation as well. We would like you to write your comments in the chat and raise questions for speakers. We will also have some time at the end of the webinar to pick up a few questions from the audience and discuss them with you. You can also share your own opinions and experiences in the chat on the topic during the discussion. And I'm sure there is a huge amount of experience in this room, or better say in this Zoom. And in the meantime, it would be also great if you could introduce yourself in a chat. If you could let us know where you are from, what is your profession, what was your motivation also to join us today. And I would kindly ask you to keep your mics muted during the call, so we avoid background noise. Of course, unless you are speaking, then definitely unmute yourself. So once again, I see that also some other people joined us. Welcome to our meeting. This panel is organized by European Interfaith Youth Network of Religions for Peace, United Religions Initiative Europe, and RITOPIA, which stands for Religious Toleration and Peace, which was a huge project and now turned into a platform. So our topic today will be on religious toleration and how we can foster it. And religious tolerance or toleration is ability to appreciate spiritual values, beliefs, and practices which are different from our own. And this goal can be sometimes complex due to a great diversity of religions and spiritual beliefs that are existing in the world today. And religion can be also quite an emotional topic because for many of us, religious identity is also very important. So often it could be difficult for individuals to put their personal biases and their beliefs aside and consider ideas or situations objectively. But in a world that we live in, it is, I would say, a condition that's essential, or in Latin, sine qua non, and think that is absolutely necessary for the common life, for joint life on the planet. So today, more than ever, we are living in a mixed world. It's a highly diverse world, and we are connected much more than ever, much more than before. And we depend on each other. And unfortunately, I have to say that we also live in a highly divided world that is full of conflicts and it is full of wars. And it is essential that we provide a different view and a different alternative to all the negativity that is surrounding us. But this alternative is not seeing the world through the rose-tinted glasses, but it's rather finding common, something that is connecting us, what we can do together to address and solve problems that are common to all of us. But it also means talking about, learning, and knowing differences between us and gradually accepting them and building our cooperation on those differences as well. Religion is a powerful force, and in the past show us that. We should not forget to mention religious teachings that promote peace for thousands of years. Religious and spiritual figures such as Buddha, Jesus Christ, Muhammad, Moses, Lao Tse, Baha'u'llah were often considered as peace educators, even though we should be aware that many religious teachings have been instrumentalized for the opposite as well, for wars and violence. So today we are here to speak how we can foster religious toleration and also to learn from very concrete examples from various contexts on how we can do that. And religious toleration is just a first step that we urgently need. The next steps are coexistence, and after coexistence, we need to go to living together with each other, not next to each other. And I think I haven't introduced myself at the beginning, so let me do that as well. My name is Amina Feljak. I am coming from Bosnia and Herzegovina. I'm a program coordinator within Youth for Peace, but I'm also International Youth Committee member of Religions for Peace. And today I have the privilege to moderate this session. And I'm delighted to moderate the webinar. And today with us, we have Professor Dr. Patrick Pasteur from Belgium. We have Elizabeth Ziegler-Dureger from Austria, and we have Daniel Error coming from Bosnia and Herzegovina. So welcome, dear speakers. It's an honor to be here with you, and it's an honor to have you on this panel and being a moderator of this discussion. So, as I already said, our panelists will share their thoughts and experiences on the topic of the webinar, which is religious toleration and how we can foster it. And I also said in the beginning, we would like to hear your opinions on this question. So feel free to share your opinion in the chat, and I will pick up the comments on the way. And without further ado, and to give our speakers the floor, our first speaker is Professor Dr. Patrick Pasteur, who is coming from the Catholic University of Leuven in Belgium. He's a professor of history. He's director of the Master Program in European Studies, Transnational and Global Perspectives at KU Leuven, and currently Senior Research Fellow at the Leibniz Institute for European History in Mainz, Germany. He's also a project lead of Retopia, Religious Toleration and Peace, and I'm sure we will hear much more about the project from him. So, Professor Patrick, the floor is yours. And I'll remember just to call you Patrick.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much. I'm very much pleased to be here and be able to share some thoughts and some experiences with our project mainly. This project, Retopeo, we started 4.5 years ago as a Horizon 2020 research project with several international research partners. And the main theme is how actually exactly the subject of today, how to foster toleration, particularly among youth. The project, the research part is finished, but we have the full intention to continue and to share our experience and see how we can, with our research, be of help to different people like yourself. I'm going now just to present the part of the research that is particularly addressing young people. In fact, the main focus of the project anyway. Looking for a way to foster religious toleration among young people. First of all, if we speak about religious toleration, we use it in a very broad sense. Religion is not just about established institutional religions. We refer to spiritualities, but also of all kinds of people of different religious or worldviews, also nones, people who have no religion, because I don't think it makes sense to really limit yourself to religions in a limited sense, because automatically you already put religions separate and already suggest, if in a context of tolerance, that there might be a problem. And I don't think that is the case. What the original idea of the project is that, well, we may also look at the past and learning something from the past, or rather with the past. The project has very strong historical dimension. We look at the ways religious toleration and peace was established in European history in the past. Now, I'm not going to elaborate too much on this, and as I said, I focus on the educational part of the project. But still, that element of learning with the past is really a key element of the project. Not that there are simple lessons to be learned, but what we want to propose is an approach to issues of religious toleration and peace by focusing on the different dynamics and contexts. With regard to education, we wanted to create, first of all, a safe and attractive context for young people to think about living together in a multi-religious context and stimulate toleration. And the main means to do so is that we developed a method where we ask young people, let's say teenagers, or age of 13 until 18 more or less, to make a short documentary, a video documentary. We call it a DocuTube. Think about it, a YouTube video and a documentary about religious life, religious toleration in the past and in the present. Can think about, I will show you one of the DocuTubes that have been produced in the framework of the project. To the image of a vlog, kind of dynamic personal video. We thought it would be an interesting method that can be used in also in more informal educational contexts like youth centers, museums, interfaith communities, and so forth. Of course, it's not just about making these DocuTubes. These DocuTubes is just a means to an end, namely to stimulate discussion, reflection, and toleration. Although, to be honest, young people through these DocuTubes also get some important skills, technical skills, but also they get literacy in religious issues and media literacy as well. The whole thing is, though, inviting young people to think about religious coexistence in their lives and connecting it with the past and vice versa. We thought that making this kind of DocuTubes, we create a context in which young people can think about religious coexistence in a safe way. Also because it's about the past. We thought, well, if we start from historical experiences that will that allows them to take some distance, and then it's to them to make the connection with the present. And I must say that really worked. And of course, it's a challenging and attractive way for young people to do so. In order to make these DocuTubes, we first, and that's the first part actually of the project, we identified and selected a few hundred clippings. And clippings are short texts with some additional context, mainly taken from peace treaties from the past, European past, a little bit also about non-European past. Sometimes also from contemporary representations of religious diversity in museums, in textbooks, and other media contexts. We had a whole part of the research which looks particularly at how religious diversity is represented in different media and media contexts. The whole idea is that young people start by looking at such clippings, and that they make a DocuTube starting from that. The clipping can be a first invitation to reflect among each other, because anyway, to make such kind of DocuTube, that's what you have to do first. You have to think among yourself and with the other young people to see what is possible. And we try to and tested this in different instances throughout Europe, from London to Skopje in North Macedonia, to Warsaw, to Granada, Tartu, Helsinki, as well as Brussels and Mainz in Germany. Some of the places were schools, but there is also a mosque, a youth center, some very multicultural contexts, like in London, but in a very different way in Brussels, but also typical between quotation marks, of course, places, schools, which are typical, middle class, secular Christian contexts. that appear very homogeneous. But at the same time, we saw that sometimes, and also to the surprise of young people themselves, that these so-called homogeneous secular Christian contexts, in particular on an experience we had in Mainz in Germany, that then suddenly this homogeneous group is not that homogeneous at all, because then young people find out that someone else in the class was actually thinking very, very differently. So that was also quite instructive. It taught us also that young people often don't talk about religious things among each other. It's some sort of a taboo in reality, but they are very eager to do so. But certainly schools and also friendships and so on, it seems not so easy to talk about it. And we found that young people were very, very pleased with the opportunity that we give this way. I think that's also a very important conclusion that we can draw from this research. What we also found is that these young people were very skeptical towards the image they receive from the media, from political discourses and so forth. They were very critical about what they hear from the outside. Critical, that's, to be honest, also quite an understatement. Overall, they were quite negative about, in general, to what they receive in some ways. Our purpose seemed to have worked in the sense that the young people enjoyed making the docutubes, but also particularly it offered them the opportunity to think about their lives, connecting the past and the present, although they very often very quickly move to the present and the past disappears. But nevertheless, it really offers a starting point for thinking about religion. Right. The only thing is perhaps that it takes quite a lot of time to make such kind of docutubes. Perhaps the best thing is that I show you one of the docutubes. It lasts a little bit less than 3 minutes. I hope it is possible to do so. It is a docutube made in a school in the neighborhood of London. I share screen, if I may. I hope it is loud enough.
Roger Williams uses the metaphor of a ship to convey his belief.
Perhaps I say 2 words about the content. The docutube is about a figure, Roger Williams, a preacher in 17th century New England, who is the founder of Rhode Island, and was really an experiment of religious toleration. And the young people here in the school compare the situation in their school with the 17th century context.
And could you please
an ideal world. He talks about how
make
every
the
man,
screen bigger
woman,
so we
child
can
is
see the
equal in spite of
document?
their faiths, beliefs, and God. Today we're going to explore how far us as a society has come to his version of an ideal world.
It happens sometimes that both Catholics, Protestants, Jews and Muslims may be travelling on one ship. In that case I tell you, that all the freedom of conscience I have ever asked for depends upon these 2 things, that none of them is forced to come to the ship's prayers of worship, and that none of them is stopped from worshipping in their own way if they pray at all.
In Hackney, I think we have the same challenges as all other communities in the country. And I think that what's actually happening is that you have 2 sides of a coin. On one side, you see great strides in terms of communities getting along better, being more respectful of each other. and getting to know each other's cultures better. And I think that this school that we're in exemplifies that.
And I think the call is really important for us to seek out people of all faiths and none, and look for the good, the common goods that guide us all. And the more we get to talk about things like how the golden rule, love your neighbour, exists in every religious culture and every non-religious culture throughout history, the more we get to encourage people that we all have exactly the same standards. Treat other people the way you want to be treated. The better it is for all of us.
However, on the other side, I must caution.
Yeah, perhaps given the time, I will stop here and just mention that we also made an open course, a batched open course, so that teachers, educators can learn how to work with these DocuTubes. And for more information and on several other DocuTubes you can see on our website.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Thank you so much for sharing this and for actually providing us with very concrete examples of what you did inside the project. And I definitely warmly recommend each and every of you to visit Retopia's page, which Leila kindly shared in the chat. You will find a myriad of different DocuTubes, but also the course is very good because it's a concrete tool that teacher could work with. And it's a good thing that these DocuTubes are made by young people, as you said, in cooperation with their teachers. So it's sort of an intergenerational approach and something that I think we definitely have to nurture much more. So thank you very much for your inputs, and thank you for this sort of academic and practical approach to religious toleration and the way how you did it. But now from Belgium, from your side, we actually traveled to Austria. We traveled to Linz, and our next speaker is Miss Elisabeth Ziegler-Durga, and she's a founder of Education Brings Peace organization, which is one of the URI CCs or cooperation circles in Austria. Elisabeth worked as a librarian for 36 years, and she worked on different projects as well within the Education Brings Peace, such as Bell for Peace and Friendship and Roots of Friendship, which is a project that helped that provided help for 600 refugees in North Syria. And Elisabeth, let's hear from your practical experience and what you did and how you foster religious toleration within your context. So the floor is yours. Elisabeth, could you please unmute yourself because we cannot hear you. You're still muted. We cannot hear you.
Now it's going. Sorry, my technical problems. Thank you for inviting me to talk about our information, our projects, and our experience, or my experience. And I'll start with this picture. What have chimpanzees to do with religious tolerance? And it's the Parliament of the World's Religions in 2015, where I attended. One speaker was Dr. Jane Goodall. And she told us that chimpanzees kill invaders if they cross a virtual border and come near to them. And maybe you know that we show 98% of the same genes like chimpanzees. So she asks us not to forget our 2% human genes when we meet people from other spiritual traditions. And the knowledge about this, my chimpanzee mode, often helps me to stay patiently in fields of interreligious intolerance, because it will take more time to overcome billions of years of evolution, and it may need more modern tools. In my young days, and I read a lot of books about other cultures, and they shaped my eyes and for diversity and the common aims of all religions. As a librarian for 36 years, I had access to sources of wisdom all over the world and met nice people international in my library. But when I meet people with bad or sad beliefs, I automatically think about their religion and why they behave in this way. And then it's easy to use a stereotype. These are all in this kind, and we are the better ones, and so. And for me, toleration is never a fixed level. It changes every day, and with every story we meet, or with every person we meet. I do also change the things about or thoughts about the religion with the story of the little owl. It's about the question who created everything, and it's a very nice impulse to talk with children and adults about their own belief without giving somebody the feeling that his or her belief is wrong. You can use it in 45 languages now to read, print, and sorry that my on Thursday I got a discussion with a man from our right wing parties about why we help in Syria, and until now I always was afraid to answer such posts on Facebook because yeah, I was afraid of his shitstorm. But preparing for this call, I answered him, and nothing bad happened. So I will do it again in the future. And I wrote him about my chimpanzee part who reacts automatically when I meet somebody from another, even if I meet people from 30 kilometers away who talk in another dialect. Here you can see some very sad people in the Syria project. And this area is a very traditional Muslim area, and so I'm in the opposite position to ask for tolerance of them for my Christian background. My first steps were to organize a special prayer tent for the old people to show my compassion to them with their situation. The tent was a gift from a Muslim refugee friend from Chechnya in my town. The carpets were a gift from 4 priests, so they pray now on Catholic, Protestant, and Orthodox surfaces. The shading material for the tent and 2 grapevines came from Baha'i friends. And we gave them the money for tea and sugar to offer hospitality, like in times of peace, and dates to celebrate traditional ceremonies. Here you can see the outcome of Hassan Abu Ali's work, who is the teacher with whom I work there, because he's working. I'm just sitting in my kitchen at home, very cozy. And I have the feeling that another help to increase the tolerance of the people in Syria against my background are tomatoes, eggplants, and potatoes. They talk instead of me about the connection of all life, and even the gardens, the trees, chickens, and sheep are preachers of God's love to all his children. The same is with stones all over the world who look very similar and like we people do and feel. They and many other science fields can help to search together for a common ground and ethic. Another way to teach religious tolerance to children in Syria and Austria were stars. One sky, one people. This international organization invites people to look to the stars together and have the feeling of connection. And you can see in this picture how, I will go back, you can see in this picture how happy the boys in Syria were about their information and lesson about the planets. At the same time, in the same week, the children in Lienz got the same lessons. And now my last question, how many sunsets and sunrises will you think that it will take that we have peace and friendship between religions, not only toleration? This is a picture from our bell for peace and friendship. It stands on a mountain near my town. In the middle of the tower, there are stones from holy places, from the religions, from Australia and from Mecca, Rome, Israel, Haifa, from different religions. And the bell shows the signs of 12 religions, and the sign, I ring for peace and friendship. And people all over, from all ages and from different countries, really are happy to ring it and when they visit the area. So thank you very much. If you want to contact me and or have more questions, please get in contact with me and or visit our website, and I am happy to tell you more about what we are doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you for sharing this such a heartwarming and inspiring project and the work that you do, because you showed us how you and your organization and the people around you actually are having religious tolerance, and not just religious tolerance. I would say you go a step further, definitely, with living together, and you're showing it how it's possible in reality. But also thanks for sharing this about the chimpanzees, because it's a beautiful metaphor and it's a beautiful reminder for all of us to think of the 2% that we have and that makes us humans and that makes us actually different, and that we should always have in mind when interacting, not just with other humans, but also with all the world around ourselves, with the planet, with the animals. And I think that's really beautiful. And as Leila said here, please use the chat to post any questions or any comments. And again, Elizabeth, thank you so much. I really enjoyed your presentations, and I'm looking forward to see this peace bell, and I do hope that I will have the opportunity to come and ring the bell.
Yes.
That would be wonderful. Absolutely. So after Elizabeth and after Austria, we are traveling to my home country, to where I am. So we are traveling to Daniel, and we will hear from him. He is a founder and president of Youth for Peace, and in Religions for Peace Europe, he serves as a co-president of the organization. And he has also been a URA Global Council trustee and URA Europe treasurer since 2018. Daniel is a certified trainer for work with youth, with expertise in the field of conflict transformation, dealing with the past experiences, human rights, and discrimination. And Daniel has extensive experience of 12 years in the interfaith dialogue, especially in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also in the larger Balkans area. So Daniel, without further ado, the floor is yours, and let's hear from your rich experience, how we can foster religious toleration, and what do you do in this field?
Thank you. Good afternoon to all of you. I'm really happy to be in such group of people, because I really believe, I know and I believe that we are doing and we are fostering peace, and we are fostering peace building, and we are peace workers here. And I really enjoy, why I enjoy is the fact actually that I like to learn, and it was really nice to learn about what Elizabeth said about chimpanzees and those 2% that we need to use in order to preserve and to create peace around the world. And when I was invited for this webinar, I really had a problem with the title of webinar, because this toleration bothers me. And I always like to say, as Amina mentioned at the beginning, coexistence, living together. But actually, when I double check, we actually need to speak about this, because we are also failing on tolerance, on toleration nowadays. And as you have heard, I have years of experience of trying to make peace, to foster dialogue, to do it through religious communities, through people who are through religion, I would say, and through the meeting people of different cultures, of different religions. But I always question myself, and I like to question everybody, why do we fail? Because always I see certain violence. Either it's a violence very obvious in shape of war, or hidden violence that exists in many communities. And then always I'm questioning myself why that's the problem. So we are all aware that religion is a very important tool in everything in our societies. I would say, in my opinion, is the most important ingredient of certain culture and the most dividing factor, and it can be used to mobilize communities. So why we are always tending to use religion, not always, but oftenly not we, but people around the world tend to use religion for the sake of violence, for the sake of conflict. And that's something that I'm trying to resolve in my head, but also through the action I'm trying to do and to bring people together. It's a very easy thing when it's said like this, and not only when I present, it sounds quite easy to bring people together. And usually those people who are brought together, they communicate very well. But what happens beside that kind of meetings? What happens around the world? Why we are having so much conflicts, and who is responsible for that? Always when I think about those things, when I speak, when I'm having trainings and seminars with young people, I'm bringing their attention, and I'm also bringing our attention right now on responsibilities. Who is responsible for that, and what we can do in order to change something. And yeah, also speaking, are we afraid to do more than we are doing? What about other people around us? What about other people who has more influence in our communities? When we speak about political leaders, religious leaders, professor, theologians, now since we are speaking about religious peace building and religious tolerance, what is the level of their responsibility, and can they or can we all together do more? I would start with the point that I will continue doing that. I will ask everybody to do something more in a direction of religious peace building, in a direction of promoting peace, because usually I think it's quite easy to find excuse for violence. And also when it comes to people who are active in religious communities, either they've been being believers, living in a community on a grassroots, I would say, but also those who are officials, who are highly positioned. Somehow we all tend to find excuses for certain violence rather than condemning that kind of violence and going against that. So I will go back again to those 2%. Is it true that still this bigger part of us wins over our human ratio and about over our brain and our capabilities to create peace? So yeah, that's the point. I cannot understand what's wrong with the whole war, so we strive for the conflict. And one thing that I really see as the most important thing that we can do and we have to work is to speak about religious literacy. I know Patrick also spoke about that. That's a point where we all can learn about religions. Okay, that's fine, but also about the influence of religions for our societies. As I said, it's very important. It's very important. It's very powerful tool that exist in our communities. And we need to start to be aware how powerful we are and how responsible we are to use everything, including religious scriptures, including religious ideas, including religion in general, in order to build peace. Because we have, wherever you go, in any of tradition, you can find many examples of positive examples and examples that would lead community towards peace. So I really believe that we need to start from there. We, as when I say we, I would say us working in the grassroots, working in a civil society, but also we need to put additional pressure to others who are more on different position, I would say, who has more influence than us, in order to ask for them directly and without any compromise to condemn the violence and strive for peace. I will stop here. I'm willing to continue discussion with all of you afterwards, but I will stop presentation right now.
Thank you, Daniel. You posed very tough questions and difficult questions, and I think a lot of us are actually asking those questions on religion and on instrumentalization, unfortunately. But coming from our own religious identities, it's always good to rethink, to ask ourselves those questions, but also try to understand what lies behind all of that. Thank you so much, and I do hope that we will find at least some of the answers, or at least start understanding the answers on those questions, but also on the questions that Elizabeth and Patrick were also somehow posing during their inputs and their interventions. We have some 14 minutes until the end of the webinar, so we are pretty good with time. There is some time for all of you to ask a question or to say something. And I also would like to just please bear with me and to give floor to one person here that to give us just a few words, because I'm really happy that today with us we have President of Religions for Peace, Reverend Dr. Thomas Wipp, Religions for Peace Europe. And Dr. Wipp, if I may ask you just for a few words from your side, if you would like to give us a few words on the topic or just to read us, because we are very happy to have you with us here.
Thank you. I mean, that's too kind. I thought I can be a humble, silent listener, but I'm happy to greet you all. We are the Religions for Peace Europe network with the 4 co-committees. And the approach, what I heard from Brussels, from Linz, and from Sarajevo, I very much appreciate the concrete approach. I was a parish pastor. I'm a Swiss Reformed parish pastor. And that was my most important thing I ever could do, had the chance. And then, you know, it happens that you become president there and here. But the most important thing was the concrete encounter with different people. In my Swiss surroundings, suddenly there were people from different cultures, different religious background. We have 27% of our population has so-called foreign background, and we had to learn a lot. And the first experience I did was that before the second war in Iraq, for the first time, the Jewish representatives and the Muslim representatives of Switzerland have been invited in my office as the president of the Swiss Reformed Church. And for the first time, 15 years ago, they shook hands. And that was the start of the Swiss Council of Religions. Because friendship, to know one another, that's the basis for everything. And after 2 years of online meetings, We need to have more chances to see and to have face-to-face encounters. But I liked very much what you did, Patrick, with the young people in Brussels, because it's a challenge for all religions, all traditions, to give to the young generation what is our own hope and our own energy, our own values from our religions, which are so similar. And also what you did in Linz with the Syrian refugees, we have to be honest, it's a challenge. And maybe you know that I always advocate also for the local people, not only being advocates for the migrants and refugees. Of course we have, but we have to take on board also the locals and bring both together. And the questions of Daniel, I don't have an answer, but that's my last sentence. We could do far more together. Looking back 12 years in Regions for Peace and European Council of Religious Leaders, I think we could do far more together. But even we, as representatives of specific religious traditions, we often have our own interests, our own maybe even political interests in the forefront, but I'm sure we could do far more together. That's what I take from you, Daniel, and I hope we can do in future. Sorry, that was not a short greeting, Emina.
Thank you, Reverend Biff, and thank you for this very, I would say, sincere, honest message about sometimes agendas that are not so visible, and sometimes that we come with our own interests into certain conversations, and that we can do much more, and that we have to do much more, because the world that we live in shows us that something is wrong, and that we need to do much more, and we need to be louder than those who are on the, I wouldn't say opposite side, but who are not doing the good things. Let's call them this way. But we still have some time for your comments and your questions. If there is somebody who would like to comment or ask a question or give his or her perspective, it's more than welcome. But before that, I just want to ask Leila to read a short message coming from Ambassador Musikhailu, who is he's member of the URI, but he's also representative of URI to the UN. And he wanted to be here with us, but unfortunately the connection is very bad. But he sent us a short message, so I would just like to give floor to Leila to also share this message, and then we can pick up some of the questions or comments you have.
Thank you, Amina, and big thank you to our panelists. It was such a pleasure to share this space today with you, and thank you for all your contribution and provoking, insightful thoughts. It is my great pleasure to share the message from Ambassador Musikhailu. As Amina mentioned, we were hoping that he'll be able to join us, but since they're having some weather issues and internet connection problems in Nairobi, Kenya, unfortunately he was unable to join, so I will try to read it. It's not that short, but I will try to read some parts of it and then give some space for more questions and comments. So he wrote, "Dear colleagues, greetings of peace and blessings. As you know, every year on 10 December, the world celebrates Human Rights Day. The very day when in 1948 United Nations General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which set out a broad range of fundamental human rights and freedoms to which all of us everywhere around the world are entitled. On this Human Rights Day, we need to reaffirm our commitment to protect and promote human rights, special to vulnerable groups such as persons with disabilities, indigenous people, and migrants. The 2022 theme of Human Rights Day is dignity, freedom, and justice for all. On the celebration of the 2022 Human Rights Day, I want to acknowledge and express my gratitude to the entire family members of ERI and other organizations for working tirelessly in different parts of the world in promoting daily interfaith cooperation to advance peaceful coexistence, justice, and healing for the earth and all living beings." ERA is working in alignment with the core purpose of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and through its network cultivating peaceful coexistence among different religions and cultures by engaging people to build religious and cultural differences and work together for the good of their communities and the environment. Our world needs more than ever the teaching of the African philosophy known as Ubuntu, which means is I am because of you, and the golden rule which says treat other the way you want to be treated, to restore human dignity, promote a culture of peace, mutual respect, harmony, cohabitation, and to advance human rights, freedom, and justice for all. Let us keep working together as citizens of the world and team spirit for peace, justice, compassion, healing, human dignity, and better world for all to prevail in our planet. May peace, justice, and human rights prevail on earth. In peace and gratitude, Ambassador Musi Hailu, Director of Global Partnership and Representative to United Nations on behalf of United Religion Initiative. So thank you, Amina, once again for giving me floor, and once again, thank you for listening this nice message coming from Nairobi, Kenya to our meeting today.
Thank you, Leila, for being Musi's voice. It's always a pleasure to hear from him, and especially because he's coming from so far, from Nairobi, from Kenya. So we also have, we have contacts also there. So it's very important that we promote these kinds of partnerships and cooperation, not just in Europe, where we are currently, most of us, but also outside Europe. And Religions for Peace is one of the examples how to do that. United Religious Initiative is also one of the examples how to do it on different levels, be it on grassroots, be it on the level of the higher level of religious leaders and religious institutions. But now we have 5 more minutes, and in case that somebody wants to share a message with us or comment, it's more than welcome. And after that, I'd be happy to close up the webinar and be happy that we actually finished in time. Hopefully we will finish until 6. So are there any okay, I can see that our dear Genoveva is raising her hand. So Genoveva, I will give you the floor. So please, if you could share something with us.
Okay, today I'm very sick. I don't want to show my face. So I'm here to show my small opinion. Roma community, it's invisible in United of Religion Initiative in Europe, and to the all of you, we are invisible community. I really disagree this idea. The second, the people in the context of the Human Rights Initiative and ethics, we should talk how United Religious Initiative treat people with HIV and with hepatitis B. We should discuss how how United of Religious treat marginalized group in Europe. I mean exactly Roma community, because in the past Roma community was have big problem with Catholic Church. This is my small opinion. That's why I'm here. And the Bible, even in the Holy Bible, promote exactly compassion. Thank you for attention, and I hope in future you should open, because in Europe have Roma community, not only Syrian, not only Arab, who I like, and I appreciate that what you do with them. I hug. I send my hug to all Muslims, but I wish all of you to open eyes for the Roma community. Thank you for attention.
Thank you, Genoveva. Thank you for your input and for your intervention. Indeed, you are right when it comes to the Roma community. We have huge Roma communities in whole of the Europe, and also in my country, in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I do think so that when it comes to the Roma community, we also need to have much more better policies and something done on the higher levels as well, because I'm sure that on the level of the grassroots and on the level of the religious communities, much work is being done. But unfortunately, we need to have much better systematic approaches and systemic solutions. But we still have 2 minutes more, and if there are any questions or any other kind of inputs that you would like to share, it's more than welcome, because as I said, there is a lot of experience in this room or in the Zoom. And I see that Patrick wants to say something. Now I'm calling you Patrick without Professor.
Yeah, I was particularly challenged by the intervention of Daniel. with very interesting questions. I want to emphasize very briefly 3 elements, but very briefly I can only mention them. One is that unfortunately people don't really need religion to fight. They do so in many places for all kind of reasons. My own main field of research is so-called big history, where I look at the whole world from a very long time perspective. And then, yeah, that's the first observation. You don't need religion to fight, but there are contexts and places where religion is more important in conflicts than in others. And we try to find out why, and I think we are getting there. It's clear that religion is a source of conflict more in Europe and the Middle East than elsewhere in a long time perspective, and it has to do with the kind of religions that are dominant. That is monotheistic universalist religions. But even if they are not so important anymore, they have had a huge impact also on other religions and also on non-religious people. The whole is very strongly influenced by these elements as well. Third observation, I did some research about peace in totally different context. There is one element that always comes to the fore. You need dialogue. And that is also what we wanted to do with the Retopeia project. We want to bring people in dialogue at the very basic level in first instance, and without making any distinction if they are religious, non-religious, if they are Christians, they're Roma, whatever. Just set up the dialogue is in the end the most important issue. Like I said, I did some research on peace processes that have nothing to do with religion within Europe after the First and the Second World War. Also in a broad comparative perspective, it's setting up forms of dialogue that is the most decisive thing. And in that sense, I think organizations like URI and Religious for Peace are tremendously important. That's what I wanted to say in 3 words. It's more than 3 words, but anyway.
Thank you very much, Patrick. And we are just 1 minute behind, so I will just quickly wrap up. I will just thank you all. And as you, Patrick, said, it's super important that we and the organizations like Religions for Peace and URI exist and actually show different kind and different perspective and different, actually the alternative to, unfortunately, situations that we live in, which is mostly situations of conflicts and war and constant divisions. But it's important that we show unity on different levels, grassroots, the religious institutions, but also it's very important that we cooperate with policymakers and those who are decision makers. This is something very important, but I can see that Peter unmuted himself. So Peter, if you would like to say something, I would give you a minute or not, and or not, I can just wrap up and let you to go because it's already 6 o'clock. It's Saturday evening and I don't want to keep you longer than.
That is the reason why I'm unmuted my micro to say goodbye to all of you. Thank you, Emina.
So we say goodbye to each other, and
Yes.
it's very close to close the webinar. It was a pleasure. I would like to thank our panelists.
Thank you.
I would like to thank our audience for being a part of this webinar, and we hope to see you at some next panels. And keep an eye on our social media. We might see each other sometime soon. Thank you, and have a great day or night.
Thank you too. Bye-bye.